Okay, Inappropriate Earl. We've done 3 this week. We're not fucking around anymore. We're number 1 in iTunes comedy until Papa Rogan came back and took his rightful spot. But number 2 doesn't suck.
Number 2 is awesome.
I mean, number 2 is all right.
Yeah.
And, there was a big article on people hacking into the iTunes charts, and iTunes got rid of all those podcasts, and I'm still there, so I wasn't one of the hackers.
That's awesome.
Thank you very much. And today I have someone who I literally just met 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
But thanks to the great Jonathan Branstein, I have the great Ben Bailey in the house.
What is up, man? How's it going, dude? I like your house. I like your place.
I mean, it's paid off.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
Even better. That's amazing. Good for you.
I wasn't sure what we were going to talk about. And then I saw that you have an affiliation with someone that I'm obsessed with.
Oh, boy.
Because late night, when I used to live in Beverly Hills, they had a great public access channel.
Right.
And there was a talk show that this old dude with he kind of looked like Carol Channing. And I'm not making fun of him, because he's a legend in the certainly the Hollywood business. The great Skippy Lowe.
Skippy Lowe, yeah, I remember Skippy. That's amazing. Of course, I remember. He's the first one who ever put me on stage.
How did you guys cross paths?
I was working answering the phones at the store way back when, in the green room, and I ended up telling this crazy story of how I ended up out here in LA, and a bunch of people listening, one of whom was Skippy Lowe. And he thought I was a comedian. Everyone kind of thought I was a comic. I was the way I was telling this story. I had told it a bunch of times, and I kind of had a routine, even though I didn't really realize it. And he was like, "How long have you been doing stand-up?" And I was like, I just started. I had never done it before. He's the first guy who put me on. He goes, "Why don't you do my show on Saturday in the Belly Room?" So I did. And then I was kind of instantly hooked.
It is a drug.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure, man. I just felt like I was home. I mean, I was nervous as hell, of course, going up there. But as soon as I got a laugh, I was like, this is me, man. This is where I live.
Yeah,
this is my spot right here.
I tell people I get a sexual high from it when it goes well. When it doesn't go well.
It'd be weird if you got a sexual high from it when it didn't go well. Then you'd have to bomb on purpose just to get off.
Oh, I bomb not on purpose. It's a talent. But who were your stand-up? When I started stand-up, my not mentors, but the people I looked up to were non-comics, like Archie Bunker.
Right.
Because I loved how he would say I'm not for what he was saying, but how he played this crazy racist, but you still kind of liked him. Did you have traditional people you gravitated to, stand-ups?
Well, I had funny people in my family. My father's very sarcastic and very funny. And my mother's dad was a great storyteller and just always making us laugh when we were kids. And, some of that rubbed off on me.
Right.
And it was definitely a coping mechanism, I would say. I figured out how to be funny to alleviate painful or stressful situations at home or at school or wherever.
Were you bullied in school?
Sure. Yeah. But I was also a bully. I was I was both. I got bullied, and then as a retaliation for that, I bullied some people.
Because you're a pretty big dude.
I wasn't, though. I am now, but I wasn't big as a kid. I was kind of tall, medium height and super thin. I think it's more psychological too, the bullying. You could bully if you figure out how to really give someone a hard time, you can do it.
Oh yeah,
it feels like you're fighting for status. If you're getting bullied by people, then you feel like you're at the bottom. But after that, I figured out if I could bully a couple people, and it feels like I've kind of brought myself back up a little bit.
Sure,
you haven't for real, but it feels that way. And so yeah, I kind of did. I got bullied plenty, and I bullied people some, until I figured out that it left me feeling shitty too. So it's the kid who won the fight but is crying on the walk home anyway.
It is a bad feeling, but sometimes people just deserve it. I feel bad saying that.
What do you mean? In what instances? I think a bully deserves to be bullied.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah,
totally.
That's the only people I enjoy bullying, or other bullies.
Yeah.
Because I find when you bully a bully, they shut down.
They do. They don't know. They don't
They're not
know
used
how
to
to
it.
deal. They're like, wait a minute. I don't play this role.
And I was bullied a lot as a kid because I've been the same size since like the 4th grade.
You were full grown.
Pretty much.
Wow.
And I've told this before.
And you're not a small guy. How tall are you?
I 6'2", maybe.
Wow. We had a kid who was in my school who was like full grown when we were in 4th grade also. And he really had a rough time.
Well, it's weird. You'd think you wouldn't be bullied because you're so much bigger than everyone.
Yeah.
But they would call me Elephant Man because my head was like the size it is now, but in 4th grade. And like I would just cry. And,
oh, it's brutal, man.
And I can imagine it's worse today with online, Twitter and.
I don't know if it is or not. I mean, it's been addressed clearly more than it ever had been when we were kids. I don't know how old you are.
50.
You're 50.
I'm old.
So you're just a little bit older than I am, but we're right in the same spot. When I was a kid, it wasn't even like a thing that had a name.
Right.
It wasn't a problem that had a name and was to be addressed. It was like a fact of life. You're going to get bullied when you go to school. So everybody's going to get to a certain extent. And what are you going to do? how are you going to handle it?
I just accept.
I don't know if it's worse than it was or if it's like not as bad as it was. I really don't know yet. But
I think it's easier now. Like, you could just, I don't know what kids use the most today. I'll assume Twitter. And you could just say, Ben Bailey's a blockhead. And I could just tweet it out.
Right.
And
you're saying you think it's easier to bully these days, right?
I know.
That would be cyberbullying, wouldn't it?
Yeah, which I know the First Lady just did a speech on it today, which is crazy to me.
What's her name again?
Melania.
Oh, right.
And like her husband's like pretty aggressive on Twitter.
Yeah. He's a cyber bully a little bit, isn't he?
I mean,
and so what did she say?
She was just like,
she was endorsing it. If you can cyberbully, one day you'll be president.
She was saying how she was the most bullied person on earth.
Oh, really?
And I would.
This is after they were married.
This is as of today, yeah. So, and then of course he's on Twitter an hour later after he gave the speech, or after she gave the speech, making fun of some Democratic senator. So,
wow, the irony of the modern world is almost too much for me.
I love him. He's just such a wild card.
I was at the gym and I looked up and there's Kanye West, talking to Donald Trump in the Oval Office, and I was like, what has happened to the world?
This is
It seems like Idiocracy to me. Like it's a parody of itself. It's like turned completely inside out. It's mind-boggling.
Do you find it easier to write material in this wacky world?
No. It's the same for me. I don't write about topical stuff at all. I don't talk about politics. I'm not motivated or inspired to write about that stuff. I write about weird stuff. I write about like, why do people build birdhouses?
Right.
Birds can build their own houses. Why do we take it upon ourselves to provide free housing for them? That sort of weirdo kind of oddball stuff that I think is entertaining. That's what I write about, so.
I mean, I like
nothing political really.
Right. I like weird stuff like that because, everyone talks about the same stuff for the most part. Relationships, parents, upbringing.
Yep.
But you've had a wild upbringing. I mean, Kentucky, New York, LA. I mean, you're almost a nomad, I would say.
Yeah, we moved around a lot, and I ended up with, and that's when I would get bullied when I was the new kid.
Right,
being the new kid is tough, man. At least it was back then. Like in the last town I moved to, I had to the first day of school, I had to fight because I was tall. I wasn't big, but I was as tall as not the biggest kid,
right?
But who was also an outcast because of his size, but as the same height as the toughest kid or the toughest kid. So I had to fight them. The first day of school, I had to fight 4 kids in 4th grade.
Yeah, I mean,
it's this is going to be rough, man.
And you're like, wow, this is my life.
Yeah. And it was, it was the second time that had happened that I remembered. I had moved once earlier, but I was really little then. So yeah, moving was tough. Now we're back to bullying.
Well, it's just so, I don't think people, back when we were kids, fighting was almost an accepted. You have a problem with someone, you just fight.
Yeah. 3 o'clock, man.
Yeah.
3 O'Clock High.
Oh, that's one of my favorite movies.
Dude, I love that movie.
Because I identify so much with
Casey Shamatsko.
Yeah. And Richard Tyson was just...
Dude, that's a great movie.
I met him once, and I don't get starstruck a lot, but I met him at Roddy Piper's memorial.
Right.
And I had no idea he was a wrestling fan.
Right.
And I just walk up to him.
Roddy Piper. I'm still surprised
I mean...
that he died. Like, how did that just came out of...
You know, I was the
He
co-host.
was doing stand-up, wasn't he? He was like doing stand-up dates.
He would tell stories.
Okay. He was
Not
just
sure if he was doing stand-up.
He would tell stories and then like a
But he would come to the comedy
body
store.
slam or a suplex at the end of the show.
Oh, he would do that to
Would
you
he?
if you asked. Because people are idiots at the comedy store. They're like, hey, Roddy, can you put me in a chokehold? And he would.
Dude, could you choke me out?
Yeah.
Could you hit me with this chair?
Yeah,
He was awesome. Speaking of great movies from that era, They Live.
Look what's right there.
Ah! It's a... Oh, my God.
An autographed They Live masks from
my God,
Roddy
dude.
Piper.
That's amazing.
I mean, he gave that to me, and I felt like I was winning the Stanley Cup. I was like, oh my God, this is...
Is that his hair on top?
I don't think so. Might be Keith David's hair.
Kind of looks... Dude, that's one of the best fight scenes of all time.
Oh, it's the longest fight
Those
scene.
guys knee each other in the balls like 14 times each.
To get to meet Keith David. I mean, it was his memorial was very sad, because we all loved him. But it was hard not to get starstruck because there's Keith David in the front row.
He's been in a million things. He's always good.
Oh, he was in Roadhouse.
Yeah, man.
Roadhouse, if you're of our age range, in the 40s, is like the Star Wars of action movies.
I love that movie. Good. It's one of those like best worst movies of all time. Like it's in a separate genre,
yeah.
It's so like far-fetched and silly, but it's just awesome. It just works.
It's like over the top.
Yeah. Over the top. Yeah.
Just like the, Star Wars of arm wrestling movies.
I love it when the dude comes in, he's got a little blade in his boot.
Yeah.
And the guy all the way on the other side of the bar notices it. And he just goes, right boot.
What?
And you're like, got it.
I
fucking love that movie, man.
Well, it never gets old. I've seen it, I'm embarrassed to say, probably 100 times. And
If it's on, it's one of those. If it's on, I'm going to leave it on.
there's another movie.
Just to see the fat guy say, a polar bear fell on me.
It's just,
That guy's great too.
I had the bad guy on this podcast.
The
guy who
Ben
didn't say
Gazzara?
a word.
Oh,
the whole movie.
Oh, that guy. Okay.
Marshall Teague is the actor's name.
The one who's like
It was like the henchman to
he's
Ben
the
Gazzara.
ultimate battle at the end of the movie
Right.
when Swayze keeps from ripping his throat out.
And he had the
Lets
greatest.
him live, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he had the
Well, that
greatest
guy's
line.
badass, man.
Oh, he was a legit karate, expert. And we watched the movie. It was,
You guys sat right here
Yeah.
and watched Roadhouse?
and we just commentated. And
Oh, that's awesome.
it was little things like that are like, I'm glad I have this podcast.
Dude, that's so cool.
And then I had the bad guy from Superman 2 on.
oh, no way.
But not Terrence Stamp,
No.
the big guy who didn't say
The
anything.
big guy. Wow.
No. Because I just tweeted people and go, hey, would you come on my podcast? And most are like, no.
I had this really obscure bit where I would say my girlfriend and I got in an argument on FaceTime. And I got so mad, I threw the iPad across the room. And she looked like the bad guys from Superman 2.
Oh, it's
in the end when they're flipping through space.
they're in that little
like one-dimensional
triangle.
thing. Yeah. No one got it, but I thought it was fun.
Well, that's the problem with my act. All I joke about are things from the 80s. I'm
You're a
obsessed.
theme comic. I had no idea.
Well, it's like we were joking about birdhouses. I've never heard another comic joke about that. So
Right.
you would all automatically have me on board. Like, okay, I've never heard that
Oh,
before.
a birdhouse bit.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's another comic who has a birdhouse bit, I've been told.
Well, I mean,
But
I guess it's possible.
there's room for two, I guess.
Well, that's why I joke about like a band like Rat. No one jokes about Rat.
Yeah, no one has rat bits. Well, I mean, maybe it sounds like you do.
It's probably a good thing they don't, to be honest.
Round and round.
I had the singer on the podcast, and I've never been so starstruck in my life. I'm like, but he was the perfect amount of bitterness and funny.
Oh, nice.
Because he got it.
He's
like,
bitter. He's not. Why? Does he feel like he's not respected? Or
Well, he's he was at the top of the mountain for a while, and then once the '80s, Bon Jovi came on, and then bigger bands kind of passed them by, and then Nirvana and that whole scene came on and just crushed every band. I was like,
the '80s glam rock kind of got grunged.
Well, I think
not till like what, or I guess early to mid '90s.
They had a nice run until '91, I think, when the Cherry Pie video came out. That was like the apex.
Yeah, where's that girl, man?
She's been on the podcast.
Are you kidding me?
But
dude, is there anyone? How low on your list was I?
You were high up.
I'm just kidding.
I saw you on Kill Tony. I'm like,
oh yeah, that was fun, man.
I wonder if he would do the podcast. I'm like, he's probably too busy.
I'm happy to do it. I ran into a guy that that knows you at the gym here in WeHo.
Do you go to? It ends with an X.
Yes.
Were you just there?
I go to Horse Ox Gym.
Right. Yeah, I'll give them a plug. We're at Equinox.
Yeah, man.
Were you just there today?
Yes, I was.
I think I saw you. I'm like, I think he's going to be on my podcast.
Oh, that's weird. You're like, how are neither one of us at my house ready to do this thing?
I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, I was just there before I came here. Yeah.
So was I.
Nice, dude.
I mean, I love Equinox.
That's a great dude. That gym. First of all, it looks like X-Men training camp in there. I'm like, holy shit! Everyone in there is a superhero.
I feel fat when I go there.
Yeah. Like I'm like, normally I'm like, I feel like I can hang in there. I'm like, man, I better step it up. These people are in amazing shape. But it's a phenomenal gym. Aside from the scene of being there, like just what they have there for you to utilize.
It's very clean.
It's super clean. It's huge. They have every piece of equipment I've ever even heard of or seen. And I was a trainer. I worked in a gym. I was a trainer when no one was a trainer.
In New York?
In New York, yeah. When people were like, no, personal trainer is not a real thing, like, that's never going to be a thing. It'll always be like the, celebrities and whoever will have trainers, no one else. Little did we know that like...
Oh, no. You have like Tony Little.
There's like, they're everywhere. There's 40 trainers employed at that gym alone, But
they're all actors.
It's a real job. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're all trying to...
Like there's one trainer at Equinox, and I'll give him a plug. His name's Clancy. He's the black dude with dreadlocks. He's a pro trainer.
There's a couple of black dudes with dreadlocks there, isn't there?
I think one might be Ricky Williams.
Oh, okay.
The football player who quit the NFL because he loved marijuana so much.
That is dedication.
That's good weed.
Yeah, that is some good weed.
But like most of those,
Clancy, I think I know who you mean.
Yeah, it's shorter. But he's a pro trainer. Like he's not an actor. He's there 12 hours a day.
Yeah. That's a good gig, man. I loved being a trainer. I was at the gym all day. I was hanging out. I was helping people like get in shape and feel good. And
it does make you, because I did it before I got into comedy and I was certified. Like I was legit. But I think I had a tipping point moment where I saw a trainer. He must have been in his 60s. And he just looked so sad.
Oh. You're like, all right, I got to do something else.
I don't want to be this guy.
Yeah, totally. It could have been totally unrelated to his work.
Yeah, maybe he had a bad fight with his wife or whatever. But I was just like, I got to start taking comedy seriously.
And hockey, apparently.
Hockey's the only non-comedy thing I do.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Everywhere I look, there's more hockey trophies in here. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Are those hockey?
Yes.
18, 19, 20, 21. You have 22 hockey trophies that I can see.
And probably another 30 upstairs.
Wow.
I have a super hard shot.
Oh, really?
All those are leading scorer trophies.
What do you got? Like an amazing slap shot? You play
it's like a Rain Man Goldberg from the Mighty Ducks. Just... I'm not the greatest, can't handle the puck that well, can't skate that well, but I'm like King Kong when I can get a slap shot off.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
you still play now?
I have to.
Yeah. I play too. I play every Tuesday.
Out here? Or
no,
where are you?
Back east.
I have to do something non-comedy related.
Yeah. And an organized team sport is fucking great for you.
Well, it's bonding.
Do. Yeah, man.
I don't know... like for me, most of my friends are comics, actors, musicians, and I just have to be around someone who works at Walmart, doesn't care about an audition.
Yeah, you got to step away
because the business started affecting me.
Yeah.
What's your like? non-comedy thing that do you have like a hobby?
I have a lot. I have a band. I play music. I have my own original tunes and stuff, but so that's completely separate. I always wanted to keep them completely separate. I play hockey. I used to do triathlon. I did triathlon for years, so like I try to have something healthy and completely separate from comedy to turn to, you know.
Oh, I have to.
The comedy business, it'll make you crazy. There's a lot of people that are in it exist only in that world. Like they just live and eat and breathe comedy. They don't have any other outlet, and that's fine. If that works for them, that's fine. But that just doesn't work for me. I can't do that. It's too narrow of a perspective when all you see is, you know, the comedy business, and all you can like relate to is your hierarchy within that, and like it's just obsessive by nature anyway. And I've always tried to have at least a good part of my life outside of that world.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have some other form of release, or this business will make you go fucking nuts.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
You know, and just like hockey, for whatever reason, is an aggressive enough outlet for me to.
Yeah, it's all consuming. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
it consumes you enough that you can't think about. I'm never playing hockey and worrying about work or thinking about comedy. I'm just thinking about hockey. Nothing else. It's like that's part of what I love about it,
because it's such a team sport, and
you just have to be present.
Yeah, and
it's deep. There's a lot of layers to hockey. Like there's a lot going on out there.
It's a brotherhood, like and that's why I even like watching hockey, just because it's like, you know, in football you'll see a quarterback get a late hit, and you might see a lineman push the guy a little bit, but in hockey, if you cheap shot, say the Kings, Anze Kopitar, you got 3 Kings going after that guy. Like right away. You're not going to do that to our guy. And I just love that camaraderie.
Yeah.
Because you don't see that in comedy.
I play in old guys league. We don't hit.
Yeah, well, when you get to our...
I love it. I'm not willing to sacrifice my living, like getting hurt playing hockey.
Right. But you can't.
Doesn't make sense. Yeah.
You work too much.
Yep. You can't do it.
But that is, you know, it's funny. I don't play as much as I used to because, you know, if I'm on a TV show that week, I'm like, I can't take the risk of getting hurt.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be brutal to miss out on a gig because of...
well, I mean, when you're at my fame level...
Injured.
Which is basically no fame.
Hey, you're number 2.
Well, it's recent.
Right, that just happened.
But in terms of overall fame, I'm pretty I'm pretty low on the totem pole. I'm a realist. So you know, I said, guys, I can't play. I have to film a Showtime thing tomorrow. I can't take the risk of wrenching my back.
Right.
And they were so naive. They're like, oh, why not, man? You know, it's like,
well, it's a gig.
Yeah.
Something I'm working toward.
Like if you were doing Cash Cab and like, you know, you got hurt and you said, hey, I can't come in.
They asked me, it's funny you mentioned it, the last time we were shooting, like a couple months back, they were like, could you just not play hockey until we're done shooting?
Yeah, like if you took a puck to the face.
Yeah.
God forbid, and you like lost 7 teeth or whatever, and you couldn't film. Maybe you wouldn't be fired because you were the show.
I wouldn't be fired, but it'd be terrible for a lot of people. Right?
Yeah,
I threw my back out one year when we were shooting, not playing hockey or anything, but we had to shut down. A production shut down for like nearly a month. And there was a lot of people temporarily out of work, but we needed to keep them around for when we were starting again. So it was a little bit of a nightmare on the insurance side of things.
Right.
And I didn't realize it, but the doctor that I went to see, who helped me a lot, is a great doctor, an osteopath, which I recommend to people who have back problems always, because people they'll do an x-ray and they'll go, oh, I have 2 crushed discs. That's the cause of my pain. Not necessarily. I have 2 crushed discs and I have no back pain. Well, I had a totally different scenario going on that was causing my back pain. But that doctor was great, and I felt really badly because then he got into a shitstorm of, like, he got questioned by the insurance companies, and like, because there was a lot of money on the line for everyone to still be getting paid.
Sure.
While they were waiting for me to be well enough to shoot again. So that kind of sucked. And that's why I was training for triathlon then. It was kind of ridiculous of me to be doing that while I was shooting the show 6 days a week.
Right.
So that's kind of on me, but.
Yeah, but I mean, you were the show. So,
yeah. Thanks, man.
Well, it's, like they can't do it without you.
They'd have a hard time, as we proved this last year. The last new one just aired. We've been making new cash cabs for the last 2 years again.
And what's the future like?
We're back to the waiting game. Our last new episode just aired, and now we're like, all right, we're gonna re-up.
It is crazy when
that's just that's just TV, man. Are we gonna make more, or are we gonna wait around?
I mean, it's like I was on a Showtime show that just got canceled, and
that sucks. What show is that?
I'm Dying Up Here.
Oh yeah, that's great, man.
I mean, it
sucks it got canceled. It was awesome.
But it was like my first look into the other side of the business, where it's like, wow, a good show, and it's Melissa Leo's won an Oscar, and
yeah, man,
all the actors on it are amazing, and they all work, and it just didn't really catch viewers, but it was still very critically acclaimed.
Yeah, I thought it was great,
and
I know a couple of those guys, Andrew.
Oh, I mean, Santino and Eric Griffin and Al Madrigal
and Al, yeah.
And the actors on it, like Jake Lacey and Ari. It's just like, how is this show getting canceled? But Big Brother is on its 20th season.
What are you going to do?
I don't know. Make a reality show and get in on that game.
Would you feel all right with that though, or would you?
I wouldn't.
I'd rather make a show like
Cash Cab.
Like I'm Dying Up Here. And feel great about what I'm doing. I'm happy to make more cash cabs. I mean, as opposed to like Big Brother.
I mean, it's tough. That's
a shame. I didn't know that show was canceled.
Yeah, they just. I guess the word just came last week, and it's just like, wow, this is like, when you see what's out there on TV, I don't understand it. I mean, you've been in the game a long time, like.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I mean,
quarter of a century. Good golly.
I mean, what's your secret to longevity in this business?
Probably the idea of having a life outside it, having things to do that are not related to not existing completely in show business, but having a world of other things where I can go and it's easier. You come back to it when you have to, and I don't know, and like realizing that the only path you have to follow in this business is your own progress. Right? There's no hierarchy. There's no, if I get this, then I get that. There's no, after this many years, I'll be promoted to whatever. There's no path. There's only your path, right? And the only real path that you can create for yourself that'll be reliable and consistent is your own progress as a performer, as a comedian or musician or whatever it is. That's the only realistic, accurate path that you can go by. So if you stick to that, and you're diligent, and you keep an open mind, and you work hard, you can move along that path regardless of what's going on around you. Which it almost needs to be that, because you have zero control over what's going on around you, and crazy shit's going to happen.
Right.
When I started in comedy, there was no such thing as reality TV, right? And then it's like, oh, now you have a TV show, and I'm like, oh, that's great. And it's a little bit of a joke almost, because it's like, yeah, but so does the butcher and the guy that makes cupcakes and the
right.
Everybody, you've got your own TV show, but so does everyone else who never meant to have a TV show.
Right.
It's just changed so much. Is my point, that you could never see that coming.
No.
And if you were so focused on one aspect of the business or just the business itself, then a change like that could just blindside you, and you could feel like throwing the towel in. But if you're not completely zoned into that stuff and you're ready to kind of take the hits as they come, roll with it and keep your eye on getting better at what you do, then that stuff bounces off of you instead of taking you down, you know?
Oh yeah. I mean, I guess that was my problem for a while. Why is this person getting this?
It's very, oh yeah. Exact same theory applies to that. Yeah. Like people, you're like, well, how did that guy or whatever? Yeah. You can't think about that stuff. It's hard though.
Well, it wasn't necessarily out of jealousy, but it was like,
Right.
I just did a show with this person.
Right.
I'm not saying I was better, but I was on their level, and I'm doing an open mic tonight, and they're on, I don't know, Conan or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Well, see, I still feel that way. I'm 25 years in. I'm pretty accomplished. I still feel the exact same way. I'm like guys that I started with. I'm like, why am I at, the Improv?
right.
There's a club.
Oh, sure.
It's great, but my friends are at Carnegie Hall and they're playing arenas, and I'm just like, all right. So, and even among those guys, there's nobody feels like they're right at the top, and everybody wants to.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm probably close to 20 years in. I still don't know what making it means.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
To an open micer, I've probably made it. To me, you've made it.
Right.
To you, but maybe, I don't know, Adam Sandler's made it. And, I'm sure to Russell Peters. I don't know who he would look up to, but I'm sure.
Sinbad. I think it's Sinbad for
But you might be right.
Yeah, you never know.
Like, he might.
He's a fan. He's a big comedy fan, Russell. I think he looks up to a lot of guys as performers.
Yeah.
He ends up taking them out on the road to open for him, which is pretty funny and generous and cool of him.
Oh,
but,
my God. He's, I met him once, and we actually bonded over Kiss.
Oh, right. He's a big Kiss fan, right?
Huge Kiss fan. And a couple of weeks later, Paul Stanley was at the House of Blues with his solo band. He just calls me up. I don't know how he got my number. He's like, I'm going to take you to see Paul tonight. We're with the same agency. I'm like, well, let me take you to dinner. Like, I have a horrible time accepting things.
Yeah.
And
you don't want help.
Well, I'll take it, but I want to give something back. Like,
Right.
if you said, hey, I know Gene Simmons, let me take you to dinner or something. Russell's like, no, let me take you to dinner. And then we'll go to the Laugh Factory afterwards. I'll get you in there. I'm like, and it's hard to ask
Right.
Russell,
You're like, but
what do you need?
yeah,
But I just love, I wish everyone were like Russell.
he's a good dude, man.
Oh, he's just like,
He's
and
a
that's
solid
why
guy.
he's successful, and him and like people like David Spade, or like, there are good people in this business.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, hell yeah. I don't know David Spade, but I have actually heard just recently somebody was talking about what a good guy he
it's
is.
just very generous. And I don't mean like giving people things like material things, but just like, here, like, open for me on the road, or stuff like that. So, it's nice to, and I've always heard good things about you. It's just
Cool.
nice to,
That's good to know.
it's nice to be liked.
That's another thing that you can get caught up in, is this feeling of being left out, or it's amazing what you can do in your own head if you're obsessing about something, about your status in the business, or about, it's easy to feel like you've been left behind when really no one's thinking of it that way. I still deal with that stuff on some level, like you see, people are, I got into this kind of by accident, although it was clearly my calling. I wanted to get into film. I moved out here to get into film. I wanted to make movies and act in movies, and I just have always loved movies. And so now, I know people that are in the movies, and I know people that are doing that. I'm not really doing that yet. I'm still trying to break into that. And it just, it can be really frustrating.
Well, I mean,
And as we were saying, that goes through all the way to the top. Everyone feels that way
well, I would say
when they're not working.
Oh yeah. Well, and we're also like, this might be a bit of a negative statement, but you know the business better than I do. Like, we're almost in the worst category ever.
White guy?
Older white guys.
Older white guy, yeah.
Kind of just normal. I mean, we're normal looking guys. We're good looking guys.
We're not crazy out there in any category, really.
We're not like, it almost pays to be like obese, so you can play the wacky neighbor.
Yeah.
Or like someone like Michael Richards with the hair,
Yeah.
the crazy hair, or
It's funny. You're right. It's easier on the other side of this business if the person, the talent, sort of fits into a category, right? Like if your material fits with your look. I never thought about it that way.
It's always better.
It's always, yeah, it is. But to me, it's always just been organic. I think this is funny. That this thing occurred to me that I think is funny, so I'll talk about that. I never tried to package myself or like I guess some people do that. They're like, this is what I look like, so I'll try to build my act sort of around that, and that makes them more castable. If they have like a character that they are,
I mean, I look probably like a Weezer fan, but I'm talking about metal, and it's like, well, this doesn't really add up.
So you're not a Weezer fan?
I love Weezer.
You love Weezer.
They get it. I like bands, comics band. Like, I went to Weezer a couple of weeks ago at the Forum, and Buddy Holly's their big hit.
Yeah.
And they started the show with Buddy Holly.
Right.
That's a great move.
That's a great move.
Like,
yeah. Everyone's in.
We're
right
in
out of the gate. Yeah.
Here's a song you want to hear. Now we're going to do what we want to do.
Right.
And, they have a lot of hits, but
they do, yeah.
Buddy Holly's their most iconic hit. And you could tell they're like, all right, we're metalheads. We're closeted metal fans. So we're going to do a Ozzy Osbourne cover. They did an Aha cover. That song, Take On Me.
Take On Me. I was going to say, it has to be that one.
I guess
did Aha have another?
They have a greatest hits album with just 20 versions of Take On Me.
Take On Me. Take On Me again.
Yeah. Take On Me acoustic. Take On Me salsa. Like I would love to see Kiss start off with Rock and Roll All Night and then now what?
Right.
So,
but yeah, I think that's interesting too. Like Weezer, they knew what the crowd wanted. They came out and did it. What did they play next? Did they?
Well, their next song was
that sweater song.
They have that. That was a few songs later. The second song they go right into it was Beverly Hills,
which is I know that song.
It was
maybe if I heard it, I would.
Yeah. It was. But it's kind of mocking the people from
Beverly Hills,
well-to-do neighborhoods. It's like that's kind of ballsy
to make fun of rich people
in basically this neighborhood that, there's a lot of people at this concert from Beverly Hills, probably.
Right.
They don't care.
Right.
It's like I saw a band called Bowling for Soup, which is kind of like the 90s Cheap Trick. Like they should be bigger, but they're not.
Right. Right.
And
it's a good name.
Yeah. They're really funny and they're kind of just fun pop songs. And about 40 minutes in, the whole crowd at the Roxy is singing every word to every song. And then the singer was like, hey, we're going to do 2 new songs. So if you want to take a shit, now would be the time.
Yeah, if you guys want to fuck off to the bar. I just do some shit you don't care about.
I love it, whether it's a comic, a band. Like, I love that.
This is what we're going to do.
This is who we are.
Yeah.
You like it? Great.
I would have stayed.
Oh, I did.
I would have at least been like, all right, you got me. I want to hear this stuff,
And the first song didn't. I mean, that crowd was so hot for them, they could have sang the phone book and the crowd would have left happy. But the first song maybe didn't get the greatest response. And he's like, as soon as they finished, he's like, I told you.
I told you guys. Go take a shit.
So we got one more song if you still got to make a bowel movement. Now, do you find it hard when you're doing stand-up? Because you're so known for Cash Cab. Is it almost, it's probably a torch to bear and does it?
It's both. Yeah, it is. And I don't find it as hard now as I did at the time. Because what happened is my audience just changed. Suddenly I had a bigger audience because, having the Cash Cab put asses in the seats, but they were a different audience. And they weren't people that, by and large, obviously there's exceptions, but they weren't people that were comedy watchers. They weren't people that would go to stand-up shows.
Right. So
they would come out to my show. Often it'd be their first time at a comedy club or a comedy show in a theater or wherever, and they wouldn't totally understand kind of it seems pretty simple and obvious to us. We've been in the business for a long time, but they just like, some of them thought I would be asking trivia questions. Like they thought I was going to do a live version of Cash Cab, you know?
Right.
And I used to have this delivery where I would come out and I'd be like, good evening. And I would do this like very deliberate, slow, deliberate, almost announcer kind of voice, which had evolved over like 12 years of hitting the clubs in New York every single night. And it turned into this thing that worked really well. And when people that knew me as the Cash Cab guy would come out to the shows, they would kind of be like, what is he doing? You know, if I was doing my act in that same old voice, they were like, they didn't get it. They didn't know why. They were like, why is the guy on the TV talking differently?
Right.
And so it was really tough for a while. I mean, I would get angry at them and like, what's going on? My tried and true stuff isn't working like it's supposed to. And they seem disappointed. And so there was definitely a struggle. In the long run, it made me a better performer because I could roll with like yet another scenario that's less than ideal. But
Sure.
But it was tough. It was a tough time, you know? And there's not a lot of sympathy from people when you're like, yeah, all my fans from my show are coming out and it's fucking up my... It was like, shut up, asshole.
Did you have to like
You're
adjust?
selling out shows. We have no sympathy for you at all.
Make us laugh, monkey man.
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, like and people in the business and everybody is like, they don't want to hear your complaints when you're kind of at the top there.
Right.
Or at least feeling like that, you know, when the show was winning Emmys and I was selling out all these shows and like everything was kind of great. There's not a lot of sympathy from people. You could get it from people who had experienced the same stuff, you know, a guy like Bob Saget who dealt with, you know, he's supposed to be this father figure, but his stand-up is very smart, but also filthy, puts you in a tough spot.
Oh,
there's not a lot of people sitting around waiting to console you over your over your problems, you know.
Yeah, he's probably the best example of like he has this wholesome image of Full House, the Olsen twins, and like I remember once I was on stage at the Comedy Store, and I think I did an AIDS joke, and and I saw him in the crowd. I'm like, oh man, I'm sorry, Mr. Saget. I'm really sorry.
I don't normally joke about AIDS when.
Yeah, I'm really sorry. And he pulled me aside after. He's like, I loved it. Like, oh.
He likes it dark. Yeah.
Yeah. And I saw Jay Leno once at the Hermosa, and he was kind of dirty for him.
Right. Yeah. More than you'd expect. Right. Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And I guess, you know, when you're at your level and their level, just fans want the guy they see on TV. And it's like, what if that's not you on your stand-up?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a weird little gap that I didn't see coming, you know, because you just have this clear idea in your head. You're like, one day, if all goes well, I'll get a TV show and then I'll sell out shows and then everyone will love me. I'll get parts in movies and then...
And then you get it.
Yeah. And then you get the first part, the show, and it doesn't all fall into place quite like you had hoped. It actually gets harder.
Yeah.
Instead of getting easier.
That's the crazy thing is the more successful you get, and I've experienced a tenth of what you have, it's getting harder.
It gets harder, yeah. When there's expectation, all of a sudden there's expectation when there was none before.
Yeah, like even when I'm on Twitter now, I'm like, oh, well, I've been on a few TV shows recently. Maybe I shouldn't tweet this out.
Yeah.
Do you have to censor yourself now? Like, not that you were a wild man on Twitter, but like,
yeah,
you know, like, have you ever like...
I'm not really a wild man or like I don't say shocking things or offensive things generally anyway, you know, kind of a more tame person than that in general. So it's not like I'm policing myself, but I've been right where you were with that, where I'm like, you know what, this isn't, in reality, this isn't bad or offensive, what I'm thinking about posting.
Right.
But could it be sort of perverted into that? Could someone see it the wrong way? Or so, yeah, sometimes I don't post something because I think someone might take it the wrong way. Or
there's so many police out there now, especially on Twitter, or Instagram, where she, you know, hey, let's get the Cash Cab guy, like,
get him.
Like,
We can bring him down.
yeah. Well, I find that people love taking people down who are successful.
Oh yeah, for sure, man.
You know, and they'll look up a tweet you made or an Instagram post or.
It's human nature to some extent. Like, you remember that movie Phenomenon?
Oh, absolutely.
Travolta plays a guy who just becomes a super genius.
Yeah.
And there's a great scene where Robert Duvall is his character's in the bar, and everyone in the town is afraid of Travolta's character and what's happened to him, and they're all just like talking shit about him. And Robert Duvall, his character, I can't remember the character's name, gets really angry with them. I think he plays the sheriff or the mayor or something. And he like smashes his glass against the wall, and he's like, "Why you gotta tear him down?" He screams at him, "Why you gotta tear him down?" It's just such human nature that someone's like taking off. Everybody wants to pull them down and not be left behind. Like,
right.
When really, you know, especially in a scenario like that, you should be celebrating other people's success. It's like we're all in the same boat. You should be happy if somebody's succeeding, not fearful that you're not going to make it or whatever, you know.
Well, I've always thought I want my friends to succeed. One, because I like them, they're my friends, and two, they can help me.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, it's a little self-serving, I guess, but like,
well, that's a big difference. Some people, especially in comedy, their dream only includes them.
Right.
They're like, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. And even their friends around them, they don't, you know, either they don't care or they don't imagine or envision that kind of success for their friends because it's about them excelling above the others as an individual, you know. But I was always like, man, if my friends that are comedians are doing better, that's better for me.
Yeah.
Like, well, you know, there's room for everybody. Clearly now it's obvious there's room for 1,000 times as many comedians as there were 10 years ago or 15 years ago.
Oh my God. I mean, I remember 15 years ago, a special was like the biggest deal in the world.
Yeah.
And now it's just.
Yeah. Now Netflix just announced 47 new specials, all people that I haven't heard of, which is partially because I keep myself sequestered from a lot of that stuff.
Good for you. I don't.
But also just because they're new people and they're like, there's that many comedians out there that, and I know they want to go international, but the point is what you were saying. It's a special isn't what it used to be. There's
oh no, I mean
they make 100 of them a year or something,
and that's just on Netflix.
Yeah,
you've got Comedy Central. I know my friend Sarah Tiana just got a special. You know, and then the late night talk shows. I mean, you've been on. Tonight Show. You've been on. Carson Daly. I mean,
yeah, I never did Letterman, which was what I wanted to do when I started out.
I think everyone,
that was like everyone's goal at that time. It was the place to get to. I never made it
because he seemed not coolest, but I would have loved to do Letterman just because
his humor was appreciated more.
Just a little drier.
In the stand-up arena, I think. You know, yeah.
What was your very first time on TV as a stand-up?
That's a good question. I think I did Late Friday.
Oh, wow.
NBC Late Friday, maybe. Or no, I did, I can't remember the order of things. I did Star Search. Star Search was the first time I did stand-up on TV, I think, when Arsenio was the host.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I
made it to the end, but I didn't win.
Who won?
John.
Henson?
No, John Roy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember him.
I knocked John Reap out, and then I lost to John Roy. And then like 12 years later or something, I turned on the TV to just randomly in a hotel, just at the perfect moment to see John Reap win Last Comic Standing. And I go, I remember that guy from Star Search.
Oh, John Reeps is the best.
He's great. I saw him here in LA probably a year ago now or something. We were laughing about way back when doing Star Search. It was either Star Search or that Late Friday that I was on as a stand-up. The first thing I ever did on TV, period, was acting, and it was Mad TV.
Oh, wow.
Just a guest role. I played a security guard at a casino, and Will Sasso was doing Tom Jones.
Oh, he's awesome.
And he was like groping a woman at the casino, and I came over to break it up, and I was like, "Oh, it's you, Mr. Jones." And that was the whole gag. Was like he just got away with whatever he wanted because he was Tom Jones.
Oh my, yeah. I mean, well, you couldn't do that sketch now.
Yeah, I don't think you could do that one anymore.
It's a whole new.
It was funny though. It was really funny. He was like super tan and had the curly wig and like.
He's awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
I mean, that's why it'll be interesting. Speaking of Netflix, I know they're doing a Motley Crue movie.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
And it's just like, how do you portray that band in 2018 in the Me Too movement? I mean,
yeah,
but we'll see. I mean, I don't know who they got to play Vince Neil, but
hopefully they got Vince Neil to play Vince Neil, I think.
I think they got Tara Reid and Joyce DeWitt as Mick Mars.
That's pretty good casting right there.
I have an eye for casting. I would have also had, let me see, Tommy Lee. Well, I'd say Ashton Kutcher.
Okay. Tommy Lee should be very flattered by that.
Yeah, good looking guy. And
or maybe, in a certain aspect.
John. Well, I mean, Ashton Kutcher should be pleased. I mean,
yes, he should.
I've seen the porno. And then let's see, Johnny Knoxville is Nikki Sixx.
That works.
And Paul Giamatti has Doc McGee, their manager.
Right.
I don't know if Paul Giamatti would be happy with that role, but
it's like, done. It's finished.
Well,
you just cast the whole thing.
If I don't make, and of course I'll put myself in the movie.
You got to put yourself in there, yeah.
I'll play Liberace when he saw them at the Starwood. God, you look great. Now, do you find it hard? We talked about when you did stand up and fans of your show would come out and be like, "Oh, he's not doing bits from the show."
Yeah, like, why isn't he asking trivia questions?
When you go into an audition for, say, a movie or another TV show, because you've been on like Law and Order and shows like that, do you find they look at you, "Oh, it's the cash cab guy"?
No, I find they look at me and they go, "He doesn't look like I thought he looked."
Right.
They look, and it's partially just because like I have my head shaved on the show, lighting not great in the cab. No makeup, no, I just don't look like they thought I would be. I'd be going in for stuff for like heavy set guys, big heavy set bald guys, and that's just not what I look like in person. So they'd kind of be like, "Oh." I remember one was like, "Well, you gave a great audition," and I'm like, "But," she's like, "But you don't look this part." So that's a gap that I've been working on figuring out how to fill that, is like, I need to at least look like the stuff I'm going in for.
Right.
If you don't look like the guy that they're picturing, you don't have you could hit it out of the park, and 1 in a million times they might go, "Let's change the character." So, because this guy did it so well.
But is that more on your or agent or man, like your representation? Do you go to them and then go, "Why are you sending me out on fat guy?" Or like,
no, I think, they would send me out on lots of different stuff, but and it was actually due in part to one agent at the time. This is going back a while at this point, but I haven't been auditioning for stuff much lately. I
would imagine you wouldn't have to. Almost, it's like I would imagine a casting director like, "We need this. Well, how about Ben Bailey?" Like, you're so known that I guess in some ways it helps and hurts.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't really know. I can only see it from my side, and I don't understand the workings of the other side when it comes to me, but maybe I get offers to play me.
Right.
Do you want or play a game show host, or like a mediator in a trivia competition, the college?
Right.
But it's basically they're offering me a chance to play myself in a movie, and I'm like, I've turned down some of those because I'm already seen as that guy, the trivia host guy, enough. I already feel like I'm fighting against that. I don't want to like instill it even more in people's minds by playing that same character in a film. And sometimes now I'm like, shit, I probably should have taken that.
Right.
I haven't gotten another role since then, or in a film at least, but I don't know. I still feel like maybe that was the right call.
Oh, sure. I mean, you never know. Like, I've always been fascinated by roles people turn down, and then, later on they regret it. Was it Burt Reynolds turned down Indiana Jones?
Yeah.
You know, Tom Selleck turned down Indiana Jones, and then
Thank God they did, right?
I kind of like to see Bert's take on,
Yeah, Bert. I feel like Bert would definitely fit in there. Well, you know what? Either one of them would have probably done a great job, but it wouldn't have been the same. It wouldn't have had the,
I just always
I mean,
loved
Harrison Ford pretty much.
Oh, he killed it.
He couldn't have filled that role anymore or any better than he did.
But I loved Timothy Dalton as James Bond. Virtually nobody did.
Right? Yeah, you're on the short list there
because he was too good. To me, he was just too good of an actor. And it's like, you're not really like Roger Moore was doing shtick and with the humor,
right? Yeah,
which I liked. But you could tell Timothy Dalton was just like a classically trained, Broadway thespian. And
how many did he do? 2?
He did 2, and then I think he only got them because Pierce Brosnan was in Remington Steele.
He was in a contract
and
for
he couldn't get out,
and he couldn't get out. That was a great show.
Oh, I loved Remington Steele, and I love stories like that because I know like Roy Scheider was in Deer Hunter, for like 2 weeks, and then he wanted to get out of his contract so bad with Universal. They said, "We'll let you out, but you have to do Jaws 2 right now."
Oh, and he got pulled from Deer Hunter for that.
To do Jaws 2, which we talk about things you wish you would have done, you wouldn't have done.
Yeah, man.
I mean, he had the De Niro role. So,
right. Imagine how different that film would have been.
I love Roy Scheider, though.
I love Roy Scheider, too.
I mean, De Niro, it's hard to argue.
How much do you love Roy Scheider?
I'm such a Roy Scheider fan.
What was the helicopter movie? Blue Steel?
Blue Thunder.
Blue Thunder, right.
My favorite movie of all time.
Blue Steel is a different...
Blue Steel was with Jamie Lee Curtis and Ron Silver. Blue
Thunder.
I have like I really wish I could make money off the stupid knowledge in my head. Maybe I should go and cash.
Yeah, dude, you should come on my show.
If you have an 80s, obscure 80s movie episode, I'd like to throw my hat in the ring.
I'll keep your name on the short list for that.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be.
I think Cash Cab. It'd be great if we did like specific, genres. If we changed it up a little bit.
Like I was walking.
We do an episode where it's all about movies.
It's
all about sports. An episode where it's all about
I mean, I was walking around Hollywood Boulevard one day and I saw this guy and we locked eyes and he knew I knew who he was, and it was Jeff Speakman from that.
Jeff Speakman.
He did like that karate. The perfect weapon.
The perfect weapon. Yeah,
I'm like,
man.
You're the perfect weapon.
Speakman.
I love that movie. And he looks at me and goes, "You're about the only one."
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
He just roundhoused you in the face.
I just walked away.
You're about the only one. Oh, that sucks.
Because I get excited to meet someone like him. Like Tom Cruise could walk by me. Well, it's Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
I love seeing character actors on the street.
It happens out here, man.
Well, yeah, Equinox.
Yeah.
I'm not going to out the members there because, it's not my place to say, hey, I bet Fabio goes there.
I saw him there the other night, yeah. I worked in on, he was hogging the 50-pound dumbbells.
That's all he does. I've studied his routine. He sits
usually on that little chair.
Yeah. He's wearing a Seahawks, a number 24 Seahawks jersey. I don't know who number 24 is. And he's got these cargo pants on. He'll do a set of 50-pound curls, and then he'll walk around and talk to Horace for 40 minutes.
I wasn't watching him closely enough to know, but...
Why just zone out?
I was sitting in that chair for a while, and I had to work in with the dumbbells he was using.
Hey, you're at Equinox. You're doing it right, Ben.
Dude, I love that gym. I zone out when I'm in there, though, and I put my headphones on. Because if I listen to the music that they play in
it's
there,
horrible.
While I work out, I would throw myself from the window. It's cruel and unusual, man.
Well, that's when I saw you today there. I'm like, I think that's Ben. I want to say something to him, but you looked pretty focused.
I was in the zone. I was trying to,
And if it wasn't
be a gym rat again, I used to be a gym rat.
You could tell.
So when I come out here, I'm like, I'm getting back into the gym rat. I'm gonna go there every day while I'm here.
Now, are you primarily based in New York?
Yeah. I go back. I'm out here like maybe 10 days a month, something like that.
And when you're in New York, I find New York to be a better comedy city. Because there's more clubs, more rooms.
And they're closer together.
Yeah, you could walk.
Yeah.
I mean, the last time I was there for a comedy festival, I did like 6 spots a night, and you're getting paid for most of them.
Yeah.
Out here, it's like
we fought for that. We formed a coalition years ago. Fought for the pay to go up in the clubs.
And how do you?
We won.
Yeah. No, thank you.
It was awesome. It was so great.
But I mean, that's kind of like what I'm dying up here was the plot was basically the comics fighting to get paid more and like
because that happened here at the store. What back in the 70s?
Like
right?
We're talking like the Tom Dreesen era.
Yeah.
You know when
I know Tom. He's a great guy.
Oh, Tom was like I think my first year in comedy, I was pretty green and, to be honest, pretty bad. I mean,
he's such a good guy.
Oh, he was. I sent him a VHS tape of me bombing in a coffee house. I was horrible. I got him doing the worst jokes on earth. I mean, literally, I think one of the jokes was, I'm writing a book on astrology and Liberace. It's called How to Find Your Anus. That's horrible.
Is that what he said?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So I sent him the tape. He watched it, and he looks at me and goes, "You haven't done this long, have you?" And he wasn't trying to be a dick.
No, he's just
He's just like, keep writing. Keep writing that?
Keep at it.
So yeah, he was like one of the ones who were like to Mitzi and like, "Hey, we need to get paid." And she was like, "Well, the payment is the stage time." And that's kind of, how that whole thing started. And the improv is kind of like the Bloods and the Crips,
right? Yeah.
Is that what it was like in New York? Like
in New York, it was basically, we just kind of one day we were like, man, we're working so hard and these clubs are packed and we're not making enough to cover our cab fare to get, which we have to do because that's the only way to go when you have all these spots lined up, all these different clubs. You can't drive. There's nowhere to park. You can't take public transportation. You're not going to make it. So it was like, we got to take cabs and I can't even pay for my cab fare, let alone and then at the end of the night, you haven't made any money, very little.
Probably spent.
And if you're going to have a couple of drinks, you're going to end up spending money. But so we formed a coalition and we had like 200 some comics, which at that time we were like, oh my God, I had no idea there were so many comedians in New York. Now there's probably 10,000 people doing comedy in New York or something, it's crazy. But we basically said to the club owners, we're out. We got to raise the pay or we're not doing shows.
And was it intimidating to like think, wow, what if they call our bluff?
What if the clubs do?
Yeah, well, I mean, what if they say, okay, see ya?
Well, they kind of did, but they were trying to call our bluff, but we weren't bluffing, as it turned out, and they just found themselves with no one to do shows, except a handful of people who were scabs who were like, no, we're gonna cross the line and we're gonna go do shows. But they were all people who hadn't really established themselves or hadn't even hardly started, and so that didn't really work.
Right.
And then it was getting close to, I think it was New Year's Eve, which is like the biggest night for them. And they started to cave and say, okay. All along, up until that point, it was like, no, we're barely getting by, And then slowly it was like, no, we're okay. Well, we should be paying you guys more. And then one of them just, agreed to pay, and then the others kind of fell in line.
Right.
And we looked like 5 years later or something. We looked back and we added up the difference, like how much more money comedians had been collectively paid in New York City because of that. And at that time, it was already more than $2 million.
That's crazy.
And now this is going, that was 16 years ago, or I'm not sure exactly how long ago it was, but imagine the difference it's made in all the comedians' lives up at this point. Like we were like, wow, I could buy a sandwich.
Yeah, it's not like
I could eat. It's not like we were buying houses or penthouse apartments, but
well, I mean, it's the same out here. It's like, a lot of these popular bar shows don't pay the comics, and even out here, it's probably more expensive because you got to drive.
Yeah, you got to drive, and you got to valet your car.
Yeah. So I tried to add up the other night my first 15 years in comedy, how much money I basically paid to do comedy. Like,
costs you money, man.
Oh, I used to drive to San Diego for a 10-minute spot for free, and that's 2.5 hour drive, 5 hours total. Probably for that 10-minute spot, probably paid $100 in gas and food, and was happy to do it. To be honest,
Yeah. And did you get paid anything for that?
no,
Nothing.
but I'm
Was
not
that at the store down there in La Jolla or the?
No, it was a coffee. It sounds crazy, but like there was a coffee house, and downstairs they had a basement that was like had a I've never performed at the Cellar in New York, but it was like a cellar type vibe,
Right.
where it was packed, and I was happy to make that 5 hour round trip drive for 10 minutes in front of an audience.
Right. It was worth it.
For me, at the time, it was.
Yeah.
Now it's like I'm certainly not cocky because I don't think I've earned the right to be cocky.
Well, stage time is important at whatever point you are.
Oh, for sure. But now it's like if you want me on your show, you got to like gas money or something.
Yeah.
A couple bucks.
It can't cost me money, right?
Yeah, I mean, at 18, 19 years in, I'd be like, can I get like $20 for gas?
Yeah.
I'm not the greatest businessman, Ben. But when was now this next question? I like to be motivating for comics who listen.
Okay.
And how long did you struggle before you saw the light at the end of the tunnel?
Still struggling.
Oh, fuck.
I mean, I don't know exactly what you mean by the light at the end of the tunnel.
Well,
the realization that, okay, I can do this and I can make my living doing this.
Yeah, like for me, I was 13 years in. I got on Roast Battle on Comedy Central. I was like, wow, that was my light at the end of the tunnel. Like, oh,
Right.
shit, the struggle, the open mics, the shitty drives for no pay, it was worth it.
It was probably, I don't know, when I was 12 years in, I ran into Louis C.K. at a pizza place in New York. And I was looking miserable. And he's like, what's the matter with you? And I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like this is all just pointless. Like I'm just running in circles, chasing my tail. And I've been doing this 12 years and, a couple of little bites of this and that, but nothing that's making me feel secure and like I've succeeded at all. And he goes, I still feel exactly the same way.
That's crazy.
And I've been doing this for 18 years. This is before he had his huge success, but still he had some success. He had the Lucky Louie by then, which was his first Louie show.
Right.
But that was a great thing for him to say to me because it gave me perspective and it made me understand that I might never really feel like I can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
But I felt pretty secure and pretty solid in the business when Cash Cab got picked up the second time, I think. And it was like, all right, I can sustain this. I can be a headlining comic. I can work the good rooms and make a living and be comfortable. And I don't have to sweat my rent.
Right.
For the first time in my life, I'm not shitting myself trying to figure out how I'm going to pay the bills at the end of the month.
Right. You don't have to go down to San Diego for 10 minutes.
Yeah. And I'm not, and for me, it was like I would take road gigs to make the money.
Right.
And I would charge the travel because I didn't have the money to pay for the travel. I would charge the travel and stuff to credit cards. And then by the time the money from the gig came in, I had to use it to pay my bills and then the credit card debt. So it was just mounting.
Right.
I wasn't paying it. I couldn't. When the money from the gigs was not enough to pay my bills and to pay for my travel and expenses for doing the gigs. So I was just slowly burying myself. And it wasn't until Cash Cab came along and was secure and then I did a special. I had a deal for a special and I hosted some other shows and it's probably around then that I kind of was like, I'm going to be okay.
Right. Now, when you did your special, I think so many people, because I've had friends who've done specials, and they just think the next day Hollywood's going to be calling, "Hey, here's a movie deal, here's a development deal." What because I know we've all heard the story of David Brenner getting the Tonight Show, which was basically a special back then.
Yeah, that was you're a made guy back in those days.
I think he said that literally the next day he had 52 weeks of gigs. But how was it for you? The day after you got your special, some bites?
No, nothing, nothing. I mean, I already had stuff in the works, but it wasn't like anybody called and said, "Congratulations, here's what you've won."
Yeah, you're the king of Hollywood.
I got a lot. Yeah, exactly. Like Scary Perry.
Oh, that's scary. Wow. Now we're talking.
I thought you were referencing Windy City Heat.
Oh, Windy City Heat is
the king of Hollywood. Or no, he's the president of show business.
Right.
Not the king of Hollywood. Yeah.
I mean, I think fans who listen to this show are well-versed in the greatness of Windy City Heat.
Shit is hilarious.
Which is crazy. That
so smart. So it's genius.
Oh, Don Barris is, who's the king of late night at the Comedy Store. But, to 26 years, I've never seen I guess you'd say a prank last 26 years.
Yeah, it's still going, isn't it?
Because that's every person who knows. I know Perry, and they're like, he doesn't really think it's real, does he? I mean, yeah, absolutely.
He does 100%, doesn't he?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Like he still thinks there's going to be a sequel, and there might be.
I think there should be.
Oh, absolutely. I'd like to be in it.
Me too. You're casting it. You put us both in it.
Maybe you and I could be the, Backstreet Boy members down on their luck. We're forming a new boy band.
A man band.
Yeah. There you go. We're like Crockett and Tubbs with this material.
We're forming a man band.
Well,
it's called The Ultimate Loser.
Well, maybe that's a new show.
There you go. Ultimate Loser. Wait a minute.
Well, listen, I saw, we talked when we first started about some of the shows that are on the air, and I don't understand. Like, I saw the guy one night at the Comedy Store, Adam Richman, I think, who hosts Man vs. Food.
Okay.
And I just jokingly said to him, "Hey, I've got an idea for a show that should go on right after Man vs. Food." And he kind of tilted his head and said, "What is it?" It's called Man vs. Toilet. And he didn't blow me off right away. He said, "Well, what's the idea?" I'm like, "Well, you have 12 porta potties. You have a scale at the bottom of them. It's a competitive eating show where people just engorge themselves. And the person who shits the least gets kicked off that week." And he didn't really say no.
No, he thought about it.
Is that when you're when you're trying to get shows out? I'm assuming you pitch shows and
yeah,
and
yeah, I have a couple that I'm developing right now. But
and is it frustrating to try and figure out what executives want in this era?
I try not to look at it that way. Still, I still want my ideas to be.
Good
or organic. I'm inspired to make them. Like if something occurs to me that it's a good idea, then I'm like, all right, I'm going to try this one. Maybe people are going to be like, we don't give a shit about that idea because we're more interested in this or that. But whatever, that's not. I can't try to force my creativity to suit what someone else might want. I just can't do it. To me, it defeats the purpose of creating to begin with. That said, I'm in a position where I can pick and choose a little bit, so I'm fortunate in that way. But what you're saying definitely speaks to the atmosphere, the landscape out there right now. Is people are ready to look in the least likely places for, this could be a great show. I was at a pitch meeting. I was pitching a show that's people have made similar shows since. I'm not saying people stole it from me.
Right.
Clearly a marketable show. It was about me being on the road as a comic and trying to eat healthy. And arriving in a different town and trying to find the good places to eat.
And it is tough.
It is hard, man. Especially at the end of the night. You're in the middle of nowhere. You're like, what the fuck am I going to eat? It's shake or Steak and Shake or Taco Bell and
Or
like,
Waffle House.
it's like I drink vegetable juice and like I try to eat healthy and keep myself healthy just because I like to feel good, and it's very hard when you're in the middle of fucking nowhere like that. So I thought it was this is going back several years, and at the time it was kind of a pretty, it was a new idea and I thought a good one for a show. But so before I get to pitching the show in this meeting, we're talking about how everybody's got a show. And I say to these guys that I'm pitching to, I say, yeah, I know what you mean. And I tell them the true story of how I was taking a bunch of stuff to the recycle bin, the recycle center, not the recycle bin. And while I'm there, this guy who drives a garbage truck is pitching me a show. Right? Which I thought was hilarious that the garbage man is pitching me a show. The people in the meeting, they lit up. They didn't want to hear my idea anymore. They thought I was there to pitch them the show that this garbage man had pitched me. And they were excited about that. When I told them, no, that's not the show I'm here to pitch, they were like, oh. Like, they were more interested in a show that a garbage man wanted to pitch them than the show that Ben Bailey, wanted to pitch them. Because that's where they were looking. That's where people were finding these little gems that turn into these big shows that cost next to nothing to produce. That's where everybody's looking. That's, I don't even know what the show was that he wanted to pitch me.
It's probably in its third season.
It might be. They might have gone out and found the guy,
Oh, I mean, that was the first show I was on. Roast Battle literally started in an empty belly room. Two comics wanted to fist fight each other. And Brian Moses, it was an open mic. There's no one there.
Right.
And Brian Moses was, you guys can't fight in here. Why don't you guys insult each other? I don't know.
Why don't you just slam each other instead?
Yeah. I'm not sure the exact wording he said. And so they did it. It was pretty funny. Next week, two comics were like, hey, can we do that too? And then the next week.
That's how Roast Battle started.
Yeah. I mean,
oh, no shit. I didn't
literally. And now it's in its, I think, upcoming fourth season. It's in Canada, Mexico.
It's on Comedy Central?
Yeah. So it was like, that's why I never shit on anyone's idea for a show.
Yeah, well, you never know what's gonna hit, man. It's never been more true than it is now.
And so much of the industry on Roast Battle, I could tell, because when it was starting to gain a little bit of steam, and for third week 50 people were in the room, and then fourth week 70 people, and then it was standing room only for years. Still is. And you could tell the industry would come in and who's going to watch two open micers insult each other? And then they kept coming back.
Back.
Maybe a lot of people.
Everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like.
I had no idea it was such a big thing, Roast Battle.
Yeah. I mean, it's done a lot for me.
Cool.
But, you
that's Ross, right? Isn't it?
Yeah. Jeff Ross Jeff got it on television. It's still going strong. I've never. In LA comedy, a show usually fizzles out 7-8 months in. It's like, okay,
that was fun. What's next?
Yeah. I mean, it's LA. I'm sure New York, it's similar.
Well, New York doesn't have as many, maybe it does now and I don't know it, but in my experience, it doesn't have as many sort of offshoot, not classic stand-up kind of shows. There's a lot of those. There's not as many that are kind of, like spin-offs.
Right. I mean, out here you have Kill Tony, which is great.
Right.
And then Roast Battle was kind of not a sister show to that, but, similar type of roasting show. And I mean, the funny thing to me about Roast Battle was it started off as like an anti-alt show. Like alt comics would shit on it. Like, that's not comedy.
Right.
And then once it got on television, you had alt comics wanting to do
then they want to get on there.
Oh, well. Yeah, cool show.
We don't want to be alternative to success.
Yeah,
being on television.
Oh yeah, I mean, to me, it's all comedy. Ben, I can't thank you enough.
I apologize. I'm looking at my phone. I'm not trying to signal that we.
No, please.
Just a message popped up there, and
do your thing. You got to make a call. Make the call.
Nope, I do not have to make a call
because you didn't have to come down here, and you did.
Hey, I appreciate you having me. This is very last minute, man.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Jonathan Brandstein set this up. So thank you to Jonathan,
Yeah, he's the one who's messaging me right now.
manager extraordinaire.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good dude, right?
Oh, I love, people like Jonathan,
He's such a character.
I'm
on the phone with him. He's like, okay,
yeah.
hang on, just hang on, just hang on for 1 second, Ben. Just let me hold up. I just want to just hang on for 1 second. for like 5 minutes, I'm like, okay.
Well, the first time I talked to him, I thought there was bad reception. So I was like, Jonathan, let me call you back on the landline.
Yeah, because
I actually have
up.
one.
So do I. I'm a big fan of the landline.
I say, here's 2 numbers, my cell phone, blah, blah, blah. And here's my landline number. And they're like, landline? What are you still on AOL? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
I've got mail.
So thank you in all seriousness for coming down.
You bet. Thanks for having me, man.
Incredibly busy.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. It's weird. I don't think I've ever done an episode where it's my introduction.
Yeah. Hi, how are you? Let's sit down and
let's talk
record a show.
Let me ask you questions while I look at your Wikipedia page.
Yeah, totally.
Where
on your iPad Pro.
My vision's horrible.
Badass. I've got one of those. It's like
I take that to Equinox and put it on the elliptical.
Do you really?
And people look at me like I'm the biggest fucking loser because I'm basically watching a TV on my elliptical. But I have poor vision. What's in the future? What do you got coming up where people can support you?
Something that I can't think of right now. Surely something. I have a bunch of stand-up appearances coming up.
Where? New York?
No, all over the place. Let's have a look here.
How about this? Your website.
Yeah, my website is therealbenbailey.com.
Go there for all of Ben's tour dates, info on his upcoming shows, and
join my email list there as well.
Yes, please support Ben.
Thank you, man.
A great dude.
I'm Real Ben Bailey on all social media.
So Twitter, Instagram, follow him. Cash Cab's a great show. People about possible future seasons.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of think so. We just haven't heard yet. We're in the waiting phase.
So this is Inappropriate Earl, SoundCloud and iTunes. Do you have your own podcast?
I have a podcast called Tall But True. We don't have new episodes coming right now, but we do in the next couple of months.
But they can find older episodes on iTunes?
Yes, they can, yeah.
So please support that. Leave a review for that. I don't think people realize how important reviews are on iTunes.
Yeah, they're big. They're big time, man.
There's all kinds of, algorithms to crack the code.
Yeah.
You don't have to hack into iTunes, but it helps if people leave reviews.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Ben, thank you again very much.
Thank you, Earl. Best of luck to you, buddy.
I'll need it with my act.
I hope you continue to win hockey trophies for many years to come.
I wish I had more Emmys like you. You've got Emmys.
I'll trade you one Emmy for, how many of those do you have total?
I'll tell you what, if that's how you get an Emmy, I'll give you those 6 right there.
I don't think I can legally do that.
Oh, well.
But I am a little bit envious of your hockey trophies for sure.
Believe me, I'm more envious of your Emmys. But maybe Earl will get one. Maybe Ben will put me in a show.
It could happen.
Maybe we could do, a reboot of Miami Vice.
I'm in.
Crockett and Tubbs.
Yeah, man.
I mean, Philip Michael Thomas needs to work. Jesus Christ. How are you on the #1 show of all time and you don't work after?
Maybe he didn't want to, or
he saved his money.
Does he have a habit?
It's possible. Last time I saw him on TV, he was doing
Diving with the Stars.
It was even worse than that. That
was a real show,
Oh, I don't doubt it.
2 different networks had celebrity diving shows in the works at the same time.
Well, that's like when they had what was it? It's like it was 1989. You had 3 movies about submarines.
Right,
Leviathan with Peter Weller.
Yeah, and then Richard Crenna.
Yes.
Don't fuck with Mother Nature.
I love Richard Crenna.
It was a great movie, Leviathan.
I'm a Rambo, guys. The first one.
You're sending that many men in there against John Rambo. There's one thing you better bring.
What's that?
A whole lot of body bags.
It's over, John. Nothing is over. Delmore lost his... Barry lost his mind and Nam didn't even know it. Cancer ate into the bone. John, come on home. You've done a lot of damage here. They drew first blood, not me. That king shit cop. That's Brian Dennehy, by the way.
Dennehy's great in that movie. Love that guy.
A Miami Vice tie-in, his best friend was the chubby detective Switek. Remember the bug guy who would always plan all the bugs?
Yeah.
He literally had
those guys were buddies. He and
best friends. After Miami Vice, the only roles that Michael Talbot could get would be the ones Brian Dennehy would give him.
Wow.
Proof that there are good people. And then he had to move back to Idaho. So,
that's a shame.
Tough business.
Dennehy's awesome.
Yeah, he's still. I just saw him in something. He's like the new Emmett Walsh of this generation. Like, I'm a Emmett Walsh. I mean, just the fact that he was in Red Scorpion with Dolph Lundgren. Thank you very much, Dolph.
Red Scorpion.
All right, I know you got to get out of here. I could talk 80s action.
I was going to bring up Cobra.
Oh,
well, you brought me to Cobra with that.
This podcast just got extended for a few minutes.
Do you remember this the robot photo shoot montage with Bridget Nielsen in Cobra?
I remember the song that was playing in the Angel in the City.
Angel in the City. Nice call, man.
No
one remembers that part. People remember the movie, but nobody remembers that.
I'm an idiot.
Well, I remember it too.
That's right before she went downstairs in the elevator and then had to go back upstairs to get the purse. And then the night slasher came in.
Yeah, the dude who had he's like one of the best bad guys ever. They stuffed shit in his cheeks.
No, that was natural.
He was like, "Hey, pig." He kept going.
Brian E. Thompson.
So over the top. It was awesome. There's an army of them. Yeah. Clanging together.
They would hit the knives together. And that final scene.
Yeah, that's right, man.
Even I have rights.
That's like almost Streets of Fire. Like it's aspiring to be Streets of Fire.
We might have to go another 10 minutes.
We could just do another one where we talk about, we rattle off random 80s movies. I love that scene in Streets of Fire where he just knocks her out on the train.
1984 Walter Hill movie. Michael Pare.
Shit. Michael Pare, that maybe one of the most underrated leading men ever. Like, I love that guy, man.
But that's like, and we could probably have a podcast about comics who should have made it. I'm sure we both know comics who, male and female, of why isn't this person famous and this person is. Goes back to like when I would see someone on TV and like, you look at Michael Pare in Streets of Fire and like, good looking, good actor.
Yeah, man.
And then that movie was such a bomb.
Oh, but it's so great.
But Diane Lane survived unscathed.
Yeah. It's so terrible and awesome.
Well, when I was working late night at the Sports Connection in Santa Monica, it's the last job I had was at a gym.
Right.
Close to closing. I guess he was filming a movie nearby and he came in and said, "Hey, can I use the jacuzzi?" I'm like, "You're Tom Cody." And he looked at me like, "What?" It's like, "My name is Michael." I'm like, "No, that's not."
No, it isn't. It's either Tom or Eddie.
Yeah, Tom Cody from Streets of Fire. And he kind of laughed and was like, "Dude, can I use the fucking jacuzzi?"
You let him?
Oh, absolutely. I did the same thing 2 nights later. David Caruso came in and he was a big star, but
he didn't mean the same to you, though, that Michael Pare did.
He did, because I'm a huge fan of the TV show Crime Story.
Ah, okay.
Which Dice Clay, I actually knew Dice Clay from Crime Story versus stand-up originally. And David Caruso walked in, same line, "Can I use the jacuzzi?" I'm like, "You're just the punk from the patch, O'Donnell." And he looked at me like, "What?"
Yeah, I've done similar things. I used to, when I was first a personal trainer, I worked at this place, World Gym in New York, and it got to the point where all the trainers were like, we're making a third of what we're actually earning, like the
comedy.
Gym is taking a big chunk. So I went and found another place to train, a private place to train, brought my clients with me and stuff. And Lawrence Fishburne was training with the guy there. They were about to do the second Matrix movie, I think.
Right.
And he was doing sword training with this guy. So he was there sometimes. I did a similar thing. I passed him on the stairs and I go, "Morpheus, you're alive." And he just rolled his eyes and shook his head. He's just like, "You asshole."
I can't help it. Like
I couldn't help it either. It just came out, you know.
Well, seeing that you're a fan of the movie Cobra, I once was at Ralph's on Olympic, right outside Nakatomi Plaza.
No shit. Yeah.
And I'm in there and I see the bad guy from Cobra.
No way.
His name's Brian E. Thompson.
Yeah.
He's turned me down 3 times for the podcast, but I'm not bitter. And I just walk up to him. He's like checking watermelons or something. I'm like, and he knew, like, I'm literally standing an inch from him, and he just turns to me, and I'm like, "You won't kill me, will you, pig? Even I have rights." And he's looking at me like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Dude, Cobra."
He didn't know what you were.
No. And then Stallone says to you, "This is where the law stops, and I start." Sucker. And he didn't even acknowledge me. He just kind of walked off.
If you had a matchstick in your mouth,
Yeah.
that might have done it.
And
an overcoat,
the gun with the Cobra on it.
with the Cobra, Marion.
And then I also saw the bad guy, typical 80s bad guy in Cobra with the bad skin. They didn't really have a good dermatologist on Cobra who was in the supermarket.
Right.
I actually saw him at a supermarket.
I don't know if I remember that part.
It's the
but
first.
I know what you're talking about.
The first scene where he's like, "I want the media in here, man. I'm going to blow this place up."
Yeah.
Go ahead. I don't shop here. Right behind a Bud Light sign and a Pepsi sign. They knew what they were doing. This was long before Cash Cab. They had the sponsors flowing.
Product placement.
Ben Bailey, you're the best.
Dude, this was good fun. Thanks for having me.
Please come back. We'll do a movie episode where we can talk about Lou Diamond Phillips and the Power of One. The First Power.
The First Power.
With Jeff Kober.
I know Lou. He's awesome. He's a great dude.
A lot of love for Lou Diamond.
We have a deal that I never bring that movie up. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, Tom Cruise is like that with Losing It.
No, what's Losing It?
This is just a podcast that keeps on giving.
It's never going to end.
Ben's busy, but cancel your next appointment because we're going to do an hour on Losing It.
We're talking about 80s movies.
I believe it's his very first movie where him, Jackie Earl Haley from Bad News Bears.
Yep. Kelly Leak.
Future
Rorschach.
The second Bad News Bears might be the most racist movie I've ever seen.
Oh my God, yeah, it's unbelievable.
The whole movie, Ahmad, the center fielder, is like, "We're going to the joint, man." The black guy's sole concern was going to prison.
Yeah, totally.
The Jewish guy was the guy handling the money. And of course, Engelbert, the fat catcher, was just concerned with food.
Just eating candy bars the whole time.
It's a tough business because, I always thought, wow, he looks a little different than the original Bad News Bears. And apparently the first catcher in the OG Bad News Bears grew 4 inches. So he wasn't as fat.
So they didn't want him.
So they kicked him out.
Oh, that's brutal.
Welcome to Hollywood, Engelbert.
Yeah. He could have still played a shitty catcher, even if he wasn't that fat. That's rough.
Support Ben Bailey. Listen to his podcast.
Yeah, check out the podcast, man.
Please do. New episodes coming, but they're, you can still listen to older episodes on iTunes.
Yeah, there's 40 of them out there.
Yeah. So Ben was very nice. He didn't have to do this. He's leaving to go back home tomorrow. So I appreciate that. And thank you guys for all the love and support. Jonathan Brandstein, thank you for setting this up.
Just let me. Earl. Hang on for 1 second.
I love you all.